Hey everybody, this is Roland Poirier here with the Sachs Policy Group, and I have a panel of distinguished colleagues. We're going to talk today about the first paper we have in a series of policy papers coming out from the New York Alliance of Inclusion and Innovation. The title of this paper is The Importance of a Robust Workforce for Serving Individuals with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. And we released this paper first because it's quite timely, having it be National DSP Week, Recognition Week. So I'm going to open up conversation to the rest of my panel here to discuss the paper and the topic of the DSP workforce more generally. Sam, I'm going to kick it off with you. So you've been in New York's IDD sector for many years, and you're known to be a champion of the workforce. The first part of this paper discusses the crisis that we're currently in. From your perspective as a leader in this field, please tell us what impact these shortages have for organizations like yours.
Well, the chronic staffing shortage, driven by a lack of sustained investment in our workforce, increasingly threatens the long-term sustainability of nonprofit organizations that provide supports to people with IDD in New York. In the here and now, as providers have unfilled staff vacancies and constant high turnover rates among our direct support staff, we're limiting the focus of our work to cover health and safety for people we support, and things like community integration opportunities and other important twos for people we support are falling by the wayside. Some providers are not accepting new referrals to their programs, and others are consolidating homes and doubling people up in bedrooms because of a lack of staff. At its heart, our work is about relationships. The relationship between a person receiving support and a person who provides it. If one half of the equation, the person providing support, is missing, quality lives for people we support is increasingly deferred and denied.
Thank you, Sam. So Courtney, I'm going to turn it over to you now. And you've done remarkable work in this area and across the field of services for individuals with developmental disabilities. From your prior experience working in government, how do proposals like those contained in this paper gain traction among the multitude of competing priorities that state governments must juggle?
It's a great question because state governments oftentimes deal with the crisis that's in front of them, the crisis of the day. But I would say the crisis in the workforce is significant, and we can't let policymakers become numb to the fact that it is still very much a crisis. And I would say the message that perhaps if you're trying to consolidate a lot of the great recommendations that are in that paper, the overall message is about the importance of the direct support professional. They are the most important person in many people's lives who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, but they are also the backbone of the entire IDD system. So if we don't support direct professionals, the whole system, to me, falls apart. And I think the paper outlines a lot of important ways and steps that we can take to do that. To me, it's about professionalizing what direct support professionals do. There's a reason that we call them direct support professionals, and it's about a culture of supporting them to be professionals throughout their career. And that means creating a pipeline for them to get into the system. It means creating opportunities for them when they're working, whether that be through apprenticeships, through credentialing, through certificate programs, all the way through to things like benefits, just like the rest of many workforces and professional positions have. So I would say that's definitely showing that professionalization across the continuum of what they're providing.
Thanks, Courtney. So, Anne, the next question is for you. And before I get into the question, I just want to say it was a lot of fun and deeply beneficial for me to learn from you as we collaborated on this paper. One of the recommendations in here, among several good recommendations, focuses on advocacy for a state adoption of a standard occupational classification for DSPs. Tell us a little bit about this recommendation, what its purpose is, and how it could be beneficial for the field.
Thanks, Roland. The standard occupational code is not just for New York, but also for the U.S. Department of Labor could happen federally, and then it is something that New York can adopt. It can go either way, but it would be nice if it were national. And that is setting out an occupational code for direct support professionals. And we, in this paper, put this recommendation under the dignifying the workforce, the DSP workforce. And the reason we did is the standard occupational code would tell DSPs, we are a profession. You are dignified and you do this work, this great work, and it does require a skill. And so that's just one thing, speaking to how important it would be to DSPs. They're right now recorded by the Department of Labor with home health aides and personal care aides, and all the data is collected together. And there's some common job duties, but there's many other duties that DSPs do that speak to integration and getting people into the community, like Sam mentioned, and just really empowering people with disabilities. The data collected would be so important to show the turnover, help us develop policies with real good data about DSPs and who they are and how we can improve the workforce in policy ways and in training ways. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Ann. So Sam, we're going to come back to you, and we're going to talk a little bit about culture. New Horizons is known for the emphasis it puts on culture for its people. Culture is key to a robust workforce, satisfied employees, and the well-being of those being served. It's really a place where you can invest time and energy where you get a win-win. This paper has several recommendations for dignifying the DSP workforce, and just spoke about one of those. But tell us a little bit about the role that dignity and team culture plays in your organization.
Sure. Well, organizational culture is just that shared consensus of identity, who we are, and purpose, why we are here. It helps to bind us together as a community. And at New Horizons Resources, our culture is premised around a conception of who we are, which is the most important people are people receiving supports, and a hair's breadth away, direct support professionals are the second most important people. And we base our organizational decision-making on that fundamental realization of why we're here and who we are. And that compels us to be respectful of those second most important people and to provide opportunities for them to grow in their work, whether it's through New Horizons. From your first day on the job as a DSP, you're eligible for fully paid college tuition at local community colleges to build your skills and become certified, in your growth as a professional. And that's just one example of many decisions that, demonstrate both respect for people who are providing supports and the importance of recognizing everyone's contribution to our greater whole.
Thanks, Sam. And so just to wrap up here, we're going to go around for all three of our panelists just to answer one final question. And that question would be, if you were meeting with a policymaker and there's one thing you want them to know about the IDD workforce in New York State, what would that one thing be? And I'm going to do it by alphabetical by last name. So Courtney, Burke, you're up first.
Okay, great. I would say the one thing I'd want them to know is just how important the direct support professionals are and what professionals they are. And if you want to have good outcomes for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, you really need to have a strong workforce, and supporting that workforce is crucial to having those kinds of outcomes.
Thank you. Ann, same question.
Well, as you know, Roland, I could talk and talk about DSPs, and but one thing I would say, I would like to see a structural fix, a structural policy embedded that supports the direct support professional workforce by rate, by the dignity we talked about. Just really, I think it's a total recognition of the job, the profession.
And if I could just add on to that, Anne, I would say that there's a lot of regulation in the system, some for good reason. But if you really trust direct support professionals with their job to help individuals become the best person that they can be, you'll have more of an outcome-based system of supports.
Great point, Courtney. So Sam, what is your one takeaway for policymakers about the IDU workforce?
Well, that the workforce is precious. It's the bulwark against the collapse of our service system, and it's increasingly fragile. To avoid that, we have to give more than lip service to the importance of DSPs. We need to invest the funds now to stabilize our workforce.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks to all the panelists for this conversation. I hope this is getting some excitement to build for the paper, and I hope as the paper goes out and it starts some good conversations about this important topic.